So Ted Cruz dropped out of the race last night, and it's time for me to say, I told you so. Now, all along, people were, I don't know why, but people were convinced that Ted Cruz is a viable candidate, certainly a more viable candidate than Donald Trump. And I said, even going back to like the first few debates, I said, look, I think I had him in like last or close to last out of the 912 people on stage in some of the debates, because there's something about him that just does not work. There's something about him that the American people go, that smells weird, man. I got to stay away from that. And as bad as it is that Donald Trump is now the presumptive Republican nominee, let's actually take a second to bask in the fact that Ted Cruz is gone, because Ted Cruz really and truly represents an old school style of Republican that would have been a threat way back in the day. So what is he? He's the right-wing talk radio Kool-Aid drinking theocratic fascist. Now, again, I think it's a fair point to say, well, okay, the Republican Party snubbed theocratic fascism for garden variety fascism in Donald Trump. But still, I mean, kind of a good job. That's well done, I guess, because he is worse. He is worse. And this is what I'm trying to say, is that Ted Cruz, basically what he is the Rick Santorum of this election cycle. Or you could say perhaps the Mike Huckabee, but Mike Huckabee was actually, as a person, regardless of his horrific, policy ideas, he was actually a somewhat likable person, like the jolly fat guy, right? Whereas Rick Santorum was just deeply unlikable and really backwards and kind of like American Christian Taliban-y. Well, that's what Ted Cruz is. So I remember the first time for one of the Super Tuesdays, I love how there's like been 23 Super Tuesdays. For one of them, I was on TYT, and Cenk and I got into a debate because he kept saying, Cruz is real, man. I'm telling you, Cruz is real. And my counter-argument to that was, no. Look, Cruz only does well in states that are in no way a microcosm of the United States of America. You got to call it what it is, man. So in Iowa, for example, he won there. I predicted he was going to win in Iowa, even though Trump was up in the polls. Why? Because Iowa has a track record of picking silly people. One year they voted for Rick Santorum. Another year they voted for Mike Huckabee. So they go for the theocrats. The states where Ted Cruz won are just super rural, desolate, uber-religious states. And then even towards the end here, it got to the point where even in those states he couldn't win. Like Indiana was supposed to be one where demographically favors him. He couldn't win. Why? Guys, the American people are over it. Like, we should celebrate this because, again, as bad as Trump is, he's using a lot of populist rhetoric on the campaign trail, whereas Cruz is almost solely religious rhetoric, and other than that, standard right-wing bullshit, more outsourcing, free trade stuff. And look at the polls. So, for example, over 60% of the American people are now for gay marriage. Ted, you lost. That side of the country, that shrinking segment of the country, you lost. You got your ass handed to you. 58% of the American people want to legalize weed. You lost. When you look at abortion, the issue of abortion, when they do the polls that are more nuanced, that say, okay, should it be illegal in all circumstances, legal in all circumstances, or legal in some circumstances with, regulation. What gets the smallest number of people is illegal in all circumstances. You lost on abortion. We can go down the list on virtually all the social issues. The American people are with liberals and progressives, and even on many economic issues too, probably the majority of economic issues. But Ted Cruz represents that 1952 style Republican where back in the day, all you had to do was say, God is on my side. I stand for moral values. That means suppressing gays, treating women like shit, doing more war. And people go, yeah, that's what I like. But now with Ted Cruz, he's the last of that breed of Republican. You heard it here. You heard it here first. I'm the one that's saying it. He's the last of that dying breed Republican. Here's a prediction for you. Ted Cruz will run again, and he will get absolutely destroyed. He will get mauled. He'll do nowhere near as well as he did this time around. He's going to run. See, in his mind, because Reagan ran once and lost, okay? Ted Cruz, in his mind, he's Reagan. Like, he thinks that's what he is. So he's going to run again at some point, and unlike Reagan, when Reagan eventually got it, he will get destroyed in a way that is just so embarrassing that he won't be considered a legitimate candidate ever again. He might even lose whatever other political career he has because he will get destroyed so bad. And what's my basis for this prediction? Rick Santorum. Rick Santorum did a decent job in one of the elections, did okay, came, I don't know, third, fourth, or something like that. And then when he ran again, it was ugly. People forget he ran this time too. How did he do? People were like, oh, we tried you, and you suck balls. Cruz, same thing. I'm calling it right now, man. His variety of Republican, his variety of a voter, they barely exist anymore. So again, I've called him a true right-wing talk radio Kool-Aid drinker. He listens to Glenn Beck. He listens to Rush Limbaugh. He listens to Mark Levin. He loves those guys. He thinks everything they say is true. Okay, their audience is like an average age of 78. They're shitting their depends as they hold their rifles and scream about minorities. You don't have much time left, dude.